Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, and welcome to another Pokemon X and Y analysis video. Today's video is going to be all about Heliolisk, so let's get started by taking a look at this Pokemon's typing, abilities, and stats. So to start things off, Heliolisk is an electric normal type Pokemon introduced in Generation 6, and the first Pokemon of its unique typing. As for its abilities though, it really hints that this Pokemon was essentially designed to be used in weather, as all of its abilities, including its hidden ability, are applicable into the different types of weather, aside from hail. So the first ability that Heliolisk gets is known as Dry Skin, which is an ability that not only gives you an immunity to water-type moves, but also allows you to recover HP under the effects of rain, which is really cool, and also with that ability will give you 2 immunities, obviously with your Ghost immunity due to your normal typing, which is awesome. As for its next ability, it is known as Sand Veil, which is an ability that increases your evasion in a sandstorm. And then its last ability, known as Solar Power, is an ability that boosts your special attack whenever you are under the effects of sun, but also does reduce your HP a little bit at the end of every turn. Dry Skin also does this under the effects of sun as well, I forgot to mention that. However, with Solar Power you get a really fantastic special attack boost, which will allow Heliolisk to do some massive damage under the effects of sun. But as far as its stats are concerned, Heliolisk isn't too defensive of a Pokemon, having base 62 HP and 52 defense. However, it does have a fantastic special defense, being base 94. So if you did want to run a specially defensive set on Heliolisk, that could definitely be a possibility if you would decide to do so. As for its attacking stats, it has only base 55 physical attack, so you really aren't going to be using that one too often, but it does have a fantastic base 109 special attack, meaning that Heliolisk will definitely be able to do a lot of damage with all of its special attacks, as it does have some pretty awesome type coverage. It also has a base 109 speed, meaning that Heliolisk is extremely fast and will be a very powerful and quick attacker for your team. So for this first set in this video that I have for you for Heliolisk, we're going to be going with a rain-based set, or a set that is just used in a generic battle with no weather involved. This will pretty much be your standard Heliolisk set that you go with, but it can be adjusted slightly to be used under the effects of rain, which is really awesome for this Pokemon. So we're going to start this set off by giving it either a timid nature to increase its speed but lower its physical attack, or a modest nature to increase its special attack but lower its physical attack. And then we're going to be going with the ability Dry Skin, as that will be increasing our HP recovery at the end of every turn under the effects of rain, while also giving us an immunity to water-type moves, which is always good. As for the EVs, we're going to put 4 into its defense, 252 into its special attack to max that out, and then 252 EVs into its speed to give it its max speed possible. And as for the item, there are 4 possible options, the first being a Choice Scarf to increase your speed by 1 stage while locking you into a move, the second being Choice Specs to increase your special attack by 1 stage while locking you into a move, the third being a Life Orb to increase the damage of all of your attacking moves, while also having a 10% recoil, but having the freedom to use all of your attacks regardless, because we're not locking ourselves into a move, and then the fourth option being an Expert Belt to increase the damage of all attacks that we hit our opponents with for super effective damage. But as far as those moves are concerned, the first one that we're going to be going with on this set is going to be our main electric type stab, which will come in the form of either Thunderbolt or Thunder. Thunderbolt obviously being the most reliable option, being some really good power. I think it's base 90 now, which is obviously really good, allowing this Pokemon to do some strong electric type damage. But if you do want to use this Heliolisk on a rain team, Thunder is obviously a fantastic option to go with, as you will obviously always be able to hit when the rain is up. It's a stronger electric type move, and also has a greater chance to paralyze. It's 30%, whereas Thunderbolt is only 10%. So it's really whichever one you want to go with. Obviously, using this on a rain team will increase your ability to use Thunder, but even if you want to just use a slightly inaccurate electric type move, you could go with that as well, as it will net Heliolisk more damage overall. Up next, we have Surf as your next attacking move, which will allow you to have some really fantastic coverage in combination with your electric stab. Also, Surf will be rain boosted if you are using it in the rain, meaning it will obviously be doing even more damage than normal, which is always something to keep in mind. And then for your third moveset, we're going to be going with some type of coverage move in the form of either Focus Blast, Grass Knot, or Hidden Power Ice, depending on the things you think Heliolisk will be up against. There's really a ton of options here, so it's really whichever Pokemon end up being the biggest threats that Heliolisk is going to run into in whatever tier it's eventually placed in. And then for the last moveset, we could either go with Volt Switch to give you some switch initiative, able to move around the battlefield a lot easier, or we're going to be going with Rain Dance as a way to set up rain for yourself and for your teammates. Obviously, this can be used effectively on this set because it will obviously allow you to then hit with Thunder all the time and boost the power of your Surfs and all of that good stuff. So it's really whichever one you want to go with in this last slot. Obviously, you could have other things on your team setting up the rain, so you don't need Heliolisk to do that, but it can be very beneficial to have this Pokemon also have access to the move. Maybe even use a Damp Rock with it, but I think it's better to boost its attacking power overall, as opposed to worrying about extending the turns of rain, in my opinion. Up next, I have an alternative special attacking moveset for this Pokemon that is designed mainly to be used under the effects of Sun, but can also be used under clear skies as well if you would choose to do so. So we're going to start this one off again by going with a Timid or Modest Nature to increase your speed and lower your physical attack with a Timid Nature, or increase your special attack and lower your physical attack with a Modest Nature. And for the ability, we're going to be going with Solar Power this time, since this is meant to be used under Sun, as it will be increasing the damage of all of our special attacks. As for the EVs, we're going to put 4 into our defense, 252 into our special attack, and 252 EVs into our speed, just like last time. And for the item, we're going to be going with either a Choice Scarf to increase our speed by 1 stage while locking us into a move, Choice Specs to increase our special attack by 1 stage while locking us into a move, Expert Belt to increase the damage of all of our attacks that hit for super effective damage, or lastly going with Leftovers this time over a Life Orb, since we are losing a good bit of health at the end of every turn because of Solar Power when the sun is up, so Leftovers will help mitigate that damage just a little bit. But as far as the moves are concerned, the first one we're going to be going with, again, is going to be our main electric type stab. No Thunder this time, obviously, because we're going to be using it under the effects of Sun or just normal clear skies. Obviously, Thunder's accuracy is actually reduced under the effects of Sun, so we're going to be going with Thunderbolt as our main electric type stab. Up next, we're going to be going with Hidden Power Fire for a little bit of different coverage, since we're not going to be running Surf on this set. Hidden Power Fire obviously will be boosted by the Sun, and give you some different type coverage than Surf provides, which is actually really cool. It's kind of just changing up the set completely in terms of coverage. And then for the last move of our coverage type, we're going to be either using Focus Blast or Grass Knot. Unfortunately, that F-Blast is not Fire Blast, if only, right? But we're going to be using, obviously, Focus Blast or Grass Knot. It depends, obviously, again, on the coverage you think you're going to be needing this Heliolisk to be having on its set. Focus Blast is particularly useful, though, against things like Heatran, because, obviously, it pretty much walls the crap out of every Sun team, so having a Focus Blast will be able to hit that super effectively, which is always really nice. But Grass Knot obviously gives you some really good coverage in combination with Thunderbolt and Hidden Power Fire, pretty much allowing you to hit everything, most things in the game at least, for some neutral damage, which is always good to know. But then in the last move slot, again, we're going to be running Volt Switch to allow us some maneuverability around the battlefield, or Sunny Day this time as a way for Heliolisk to set up its own sun and make use of that, as well as its teammates making use of the sun as well. Again, you could obviously potentially use a Heat Rock if you wanted to, but I don't think that's entirely necessary, as there are other things that are probably more reliable for setting up sun. For example, Ninetales or something else that could easily take a hit and set up sun in the process. But overall, this is just the Sun version of Heliolisk, which I think is a lot of fun to use and definitely a very powerful attacker when the sun is up. Up next, I have a substitute-based set for Heliolisk to run that will allow it to potentially get the jump on opponents and even boost its stats. So we're going to start this one off with a Timid Nature, or a Modest Nature, to increase your speed while lowering your physical attack, or increase your special attack while lowering your physical attack. And then for the ability, we're going to go with Dry Skin again, because it'll give us an immunity, which will give us an easier time to set up with this Pokemon. So that is obviously really good for this set. But as for the EVs, again, we're going to be going with the same special attacking EV spread with 4 defense, 252 special attack, and 252 speed EVs. And for the item this time, we could either go with Leftovers to allow us to recover a little bit of HP at the end of every turn, which is always really nice since we are making use of Substitute on this set. But if you want to turn this set into more of a boosting set, you could go with either a Shellac Berry to increase your speed by 1 stage once you hit below 25% of your health, or a Pataya Berry to increase your special attack by 1 stage once you hit below 25% of your health, which will obviously be easy to do on the set because the first move that we are going with is going to be Substitute. Now this is fantastic because Heliolisk has some absolutely fantastic type coverage, meaning that more often than not, after you set up a Substitute, you'll be able to do some pretty big damage to whatever comes in to take your special attacks, as you do have a lot of things to, or you do have a lot of moves to hit other Pokemon for super effective damage. So again, we're going to be making use of Thunderbolt and Surf just like on the first set, as well as the type coverage that we would get in the third move slot in the form of either Focus Blast, Grass Knot, or Hidden Power Ice, depending on the coverage you think you're going to need with this Heliolisk. And obviously, since this is more of a setup Heliolisk, we will definitely be able to do a ton of damage to our opponents after our berry has activated, or after we've set up our substitute and they have to struggle to then break the substitute and take a good bit of damage in the process. So overall, this set is just meant to get the jump on the opponent and could even turn Heliolisk into a sweeper late game if it's able to get the berry to activate if you choose to use that item on the set. And lastly, I have a defensive set to run with Heliolisk that is a ton of fun to use because it's really unique and something that really only this Pokemon can do. So we're going to start this set off by giving it a Calm Nature to increase its special defense but lower its physical attack, and for the ability we're again going to be going with Dry Skin. As for the EVs, we're going to put 252 into HP to max that out, 4 into its defense, and then max its special defense with 252 EVs into that stat. And for the item, we're going to be going with Leftovers to recover a little bit of HP at the end of every turn. But as for the moves, the first thing that we're going to be going with on this set is either going to be Protect or Substitute, as this set is meant to Toxic Stall extremely effectively. So Protect will obviously be there to stall out for one turn specifically, where you will be able to take no damage, whereas Substitute will be able to obviously get you behind a protective barrier to shield you from any extraneous damage, as well as statuses yourself, which could always be very beneficial for this set. Also, it's going to work extremely well with another move on this set, which I will talk about in just a second. But as far as the main damage dealing move for this set is going to be concerned, we are going to be going with Thunderbolt on this set. You can't really go wrong with that. It's just solid electric type stat. But the next move on this set is a signature move of Heliolisk that is really unique and something I thought was extremely interesting. Unfortunately, Heliolisk is the only Pokemon that learns this, so a Pokemon that has like the Volt Absorb or Lightning Rod ability cannot have access to this move, but it's still really awesome. And it's known as Electrify, which is a move that pretty much changes the opponent's attacks to electric type moves if you go before them. Now, Heliolisk is ridiculously fast as is, so on a defensive set, it's still already going to be fast, outspeeding a ton of different Pokemon. So with this set in particular, you're probably going to be able to use Electrify to turn most opponents' attacks into electric type moves, which means that they will be not very effective when they hit you, which is very important because obviously this is a defensive set. So if you do have a substitute up in specifically, Electrify will make it so more often than not, your opponent won't be able to break your sub because they'll be hitting you for not only an unstab move, but also for a not very effective move because you're obviously changing it to an electric type and you resist electric moves being an electric type. So to go along with all of this, you're going to be making use of Toxic as a way to potentially stall out all of those opponents that are trying to obviously deal damage to you, but they won't be able to because you're turning their attacks into electric type moves, which is really cool. And I think this is a really awesome and unique set for this Pokemon to run, since it gives it a more defensive role, and it does this really interestingly because of this really awesome Electrify move. So I'm really happy with this set, and it would benefit even more if you just had Toxic Spike support on your team, as you wouldn't really have to worry about using Toxic on this set yourself, because that could be a turn where you're going to take damage or something like that. But overall, this set is just like a really freaking cool way to use a defensive Heliolisk, which is something that not a lot of people will try because its offensive stats are really great, but it does have that nice special defense stat as well, and this really awesome setup for running a defensive set. But that is it for this video, everybody. So I wanted to thank you all for watching my exhibition on Heliolisk movesets. Obviously, the initial reactions to this Pokemon now that, the games are out, but the metagame hasn't developed yet, so we don't really know for sure what we're going to be needing with Heliolisk. But I want to invite you all to please follow me on Twitch and on Twitter, and bookmark the database in the description that will have all of these Heliolisk sets, as well as all the other sets that I've been doing in my analysis video series. And also feel free to join the Zat at zat.com/pokegrounds, where you will be able to chat about Pokemon, trade, and battle, and do all sorts of really cool stuff with the Pokemon games. But that is it, everybody. As always, take care, goodbye, and I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching.